The boy who cried wolf. A boy called Peter lived with his parents in a village on the hillside. His parents, like most of the other people in the village, were sheep farmers. Everybody in the village took turns to look after the sheep. And when Peter was 10 years old, he was considered old enough to take his turn as shepherding. But Peter was too easily bored, and he found a very tiresome being on the hillside with only sheep for company.
Today is so boring.
So, he'd found ways to amuse himself. Running up rocks, climbing trees, chasing sheep. But nothing really kept him amused for very long. Then he hit upon a brilliant idea. He climbed to the top of the tallest tree and started shouting towards the village.
Wolf! 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 Wolf!
One of the villagers heard him and got all the other men together and armed with axes, weapons. They ran out of the village to chase away the wolf and save their boy. Of course, when they got there, they found Peter perched high up in his tree, laughing, and the sheep grazing peacefully.
You guys look so fun.
They were very annoyed with him. That night, Peter, blamed by his mother, and was sent to bed without any supper. For a while, life went on again as normal, and people forgot about the incident. Peter managed to behave himself whenever it was his turn to mind the sheep. Until one day, he got really bored again. He picked up some sticks and running through where the sheep were grazing. He started hitting the sticks together and shouting,
Wolf! 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 Wolf!
Somebody in the village heard. The men all come running up the hill. They armed with their sticks and axes, ready to chase away the big bad wolf and save their sheep and the poor shepherd boy. Imagine their consternation when they arrived in the field to see their herd grazing peacefully and Peter sitting on the big rock. Laughing uncontrollably. For a few days, people in the village went around mowing about Peter and his tricks. But before long, things settled down again, and life resumed to normal. Peter had to do his turn as shepherding again. He decided he should behave himself. He really didn't want to upset everybody all the time. Then, one afternoon, when Peter was in the fields with the sheep, he noticed some of them were getting nervous. They started bleating and running. Peter didn't know what was the cause of this strange behavior. Sheep were running all over and making an ever louder racket. He got worried and decided to climb a tree so he could see what was going on. He looked around. That he saw almost make him fall out of the tree. was a great, big, hairy wolf, chasing the sheep, beating at their legs, snapping at their tails. For a few seconds, Peter was speechless. Then he started shouting,
Wolf! 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 Wolf!
In the village, an old man heard the shouting.
Is that Peter again?
He's shaking his head. What's going on? Inquired another villager.
He just can't help himself. That boy needs to be the center of attention all the time.
He said. Nobody believed that this time there really was a wolf, and nobody got their weapons. All the stakes were left in the sheets, and nobody rushed up the hillside. Until later, that the boy sent to take over from Peter. He found their sheep's bodies all over the hillside, and Peter still up there in his tree, whimpering. That the villagers found out there really had been a wolf this time. At last, Peter learned his lesson, that if you always tell lies, people will eventually stop believing you. And then, when you are telling the truth for a change, when you really need them to believe you, they won't.